Thank you, Robert, and good morning. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you this morning, particularly during these very tumultuous times. But I also appreciate you tuning in and listening to what Karis and I have to say. As you can imagine, right now you're hearing a lot about social justice. And from my perspective, this is a very simple concept. It's the notion that all people have equal access to the comforts of home, to health, to well-being, to employment, to benefits, to education, and to a myriad of other opportunities that are afforded to all. And this should happen regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your age, your gender identification or preference, or socioeconomic status, or even your political views. And this means that whenever any one person or any one group intentionally or unintentionally limits that equal access, it is incumbent upon us all to stand to be a voice where voices can't be heard. That is social justice. I can't breathe. 3 words. I can't breathe. These are the last 3 words of George Floyd as he died beneath the knee of a police officer. I can't breathe. Tragically and outrageously, this is really the final plea for help that is happening and is an appeal, if you will, an appeal for social justice. It's an appeal to end of all the suffocation and inflicted upon communities of color. Here at MOTA, we're all saddened and devastated and outraged by these violent acts. George Floyd's death comes on the hard heels of Ahmaud Arbery being shot and killed while jogging in his hometown of Brunswick, Georgia. Or Breonna Taylor, a healthcare professional, being shot and killed in her home in Louisville. These events, surging like a terrible tide of injustice, has evoked an incredible, visceral response that's being acted out in multiple communities throughout our country. These are very difficult times for ourselves, for our families, and for our community. While it takes time to process these emotions, one thing cannot wait, and that is the imperative to act now to remove the structural and institutional racism in our communities and to also address the issue of implicit bias that haunts each and every one of us each and every day. Personally, at the age of 7, I still recall driving across country with my parents and denying access to a restaurant based solely on our skin color. Or as a teenager, my friend being shot in the face while at a routine traffic stop when he was reaching for his license. Or as a surgical resident, as Robert mentioned, I trained at USC. I remember driving home at 2 a.m. in the morning after operating on someone and repairing the aorta from a gunshot wound, and I was pulled over by the police. And I rolled my window down and I asked him, why did he stop me? And he said, well, one of your taillights was more dim than the other. Of course, I knew that that was not true. And he glanced at my back seat. And in my back seat, one of the things I always did was carry my white coat. I hung it up on that hook in the back seat of your car. And he looked at me and he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a trauma surgeon at USC. And I glanced and I saw cameras were on me at the time. And he said, quick, turn the cameras off. He said, he's a doctor, he's okay. And I drove home 2 in the morning, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. But these are the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Or my son, when he turned 15, and I begged with him, and I said, when you drive, you always wear a collared shirt. Even if you're coming home from basketball practice, you take that jersey off and you put that collared shirt on because it matters, it's different. Or you can fast forward to just a month ago when my wife and daughter were walking in our own neighborhood and a truck screeches by and yells out the N-word. These are countless examples. But regardless of the situation, rioting and damaging and destroying property is certainly not the answer. It's counterproductive. And I'm deeply disturbed by these acts that are negatively impacting our lives, our communities, and our businesses. We cannot simply denounce violence and return to life as it was. Silence can no longer be an acceptable response to any form of discrimination. The injustices that we all continue to witness, the injustices that we see inflicted on African Americans and other racial and ethnic minorities, the discrimination based on gender, sexual orientation, religion, age, physical disability, and all other differences. All of these need to be addressed. And they need to be addressed through diverse voices, singing in unison, a chorus committed to wiping out the disease of discrimination. Dr. Martin Luther King very eloquently summoned us to this very cause. He said, "Our lives begin to end." Let me repeat that. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And I'm here to tell you this definitely matters. As a company and as a community and as a country, we must acknowledge the social injustice that lies at the historic core of who we are as a nation. We must recognize it, name it, and deal with it. Thurgood Marshall, the son of a railroad porter who became a great justice of the Supreme Court, understood this imperative. And I quote, "When you see a wrong or inequality or injustice, when you see a wrong or inequality or injustice, speak out, because this is your country, this is your democracy. Make it, protect it, pass it on." In closing, let me just say that I hope the events of the recent days have reminded us all of one thing. Turning your back on an issue doesn't make it go away. Blaming someone else for an issue doesn't make it go away. Even shedding a tear doesn't make it go away. Sometimes it makes you feel better. But dealing with an issue makes it go away. Be accountable. History now calls us together as one to rise to look injustice in the face and cry out at the top of our lungs, enough. But this requires full societal participation. This moment is not about change in our laws. It's not about change in police training. It's not even about change in policy. This is about change in our hearts. Thank you.